ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فإن خير الحديث يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. We give praise and thanks to Almighty Allah. We ask Him to shower His blessing upon the noblest of mankind, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, we have not ceased to be treating the book Az-zakaat fi-l-Islaam fi-Dh-Dhawi-l-Kitaab was-Sunnah by Al-Sheikh, الدكتور Sa'id ibn Ali ibn Wahf ibn Muhammad Al-Qahtaani, the author of the popular book Hisnu-l-Muslim. He wrote several other books. This is one of them. Az-zakaat fi-l-Islaam fi-Dhawi-l-Kitaab was-Sunnah. Zakat in Islam under the light of the Qur'an and the Sunnah. Alhamdulillah, we have taken a couple of related topics, and I would like to move on to another segment of the book. But however, we don't want to do that without being sure that we have gotten the basics, the rudiments of what we have taken so far. So, alhamdulillah, I would like to ask, what is one Quranic or Hadith evidence, any evidence in the Quran or Hadith for paying zakah on gold and silver? Let's be open. We can put our mics on if there's no background interference. Please, anyone, just feel free. Let's open our mics if we are not, if there's no background noise, and let's contribute. Any verse, any hadith to support the fact that we are to pay zakah on gold and silver.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Please go ahead.
In Surah Quran 2, verse 267, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا من طيبات ما كسبتم ومما أخرجنا لكم من الأرض. Allah says, spend from what you earn and what is extracted from the land. I think this is an evidence that zakat should be paid on gold and silver and trade goods.
بارك الله فيكم. بارك الله فيكم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا من طيبات ما رزقناكم. O you who have believed, spend of the good things that you have of the good things that you have earned. وَمِمَّا أَخْرَجْنَا لَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ, and the things that we have brought forth from you from the earth. So gold and silver will be under either of the two. Generally speaking, we earn them, gold and silver, amongst other things, and they are extracted as ores from the ground, gold and silver. But Barakallahu fikum, but can we find a specific verse that mentions gold and silver in support of that? Because there are a lot of things that we. Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. Please, tafaddal.
Now, a specific verse is in Surah At-Tawbah. الذين يكنزون الذهب والفضة ولا ينفقونها في سبيل الله فبشرهم بعذاب أليم يوم يحمى عليها في نار جهنم فتكوى بها جباههم وجنوبهم وظهورهم هذا ما كنزتم لأنفسكم فذوقوا ما كنتم تكنزون. So the verse talks about gold and silver, those that hoard it and do not spend it in the cause of Allah. So yeah.
Barakallah.
Okay.
Go on, please.
Yeah, you can continue from there, right?
Okay, Barakallah fikum. So it's specific. Barakallah fikum, ya Sheikh. It says, وَالَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ, those who hoard, store gold and silver. وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَهَا, and they do not spend it فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, in the path of Allah. فَبَشِّرْهُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, يعني in the path of Allah, specifically Az-zakaat. فَبَشِّرْهُمْ بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ, give them glidings of a painful punishment. So this tells us that we are to, if hoarding it and not paying zakah on it is will attract punishment, then it tells us that not hoarding it and paying zakat on it, the mafhum al-mukhalafa, the converse meaning is that not hoarding it and paying zakat on it is wajib, and we will be rewarded. Yeah, alhamdulillah, barakallah fiqh. That's a good one. Let's go to the next question. So it's just that, we should have a basis. This deen is a deen of knowledge. Allah says, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِ, this is my path. Say to them, O Muhammad, this is my path. أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ, I am calling to this path upon basira, clear, crystal evidence. أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِ, I and as well those who follow me. This is what we do. So that if we are woken up any day from sleep, or we are in discussion with anyone doing the da'wah, that these things will come up to our fingertips, and they'll be at our fingertips, and we're able to extract them and present them as evidence for what we're doing. So and we ourselves, they'll be that we are doing something that has evidence. It's not just something we plucked from the air, or something that brother so and so told us, or anything like that. Alhamdulillah. What is one Quranic or hadith evidence for paying zakah on money? So I think Malan Bashir mentioned that, and it is also when we yes, he mentioned that, but can we look for another? Can we look for another evidence apart from the one that Malan Bashir gave? أنفقوا من طيبات ما كسبتم ومما أخرجنا لكم من الأرض. Can we look for another that talks about paying zakah on money?
You mean Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Are we talking of specifically money?
Yes, money.
Okay. because the one I have in mind is
Okay.
Surah Al-An'am,
Okay.
verse 141.
Okay.
I don't know whether that
Please read it.
The Arabic or the English?
Anyone.
So for the English, looking at the text in which I was revising it, it says that Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. But pay the due thereof on the day of their harvest.
Okay. Barakallahu fikum. That is for harvesting farm produce. That is zakah. That is evidence for paying zakah on farm produce. Now, so what about for money? There are different things we pay zakah on. Farm produce is one of them. Barakallahu fikum. What about for money?
I remember generally what we discussed about was at the beginning the measure of wealth, quote and unquote, was gold and silver.
No.
But money is something recent, 1940 or 44, and that
that's fiat money now.
Fiat money, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that the scholars discuss extensively about it, and eventually 2.5% was agreed on.
Okay, we had a discussion like that. Barakallahu fikum. Okay, does somebody, Jazakumullah khairan, Jazakumullah khairan. Does somebody have anything to add?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, follow.
So I think the verse probably is the verse in Surah At-Tawbah again.
Okay.
خذ من أموالهم صدقة تطهرهم وتزكيهم بها وصل عليهم إن صلاتك سكن لهم والله بما تعملون خبير أو كذلك. I can't remember the end. Yeah.
Okay. Barakallahu fikum. Take from their wealth صدقة. خذ من أموالهم صدقة تطهرهم بها. تطهرهم وتزكيهم بها. Take from their wealth to purify them and purify again with what you've taken. So this wealth, Allah says amwal, so it covers money and it covers all possessions too. So that's a general text, but a specific text will be a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, "Laysa alayka shay'un." There is nothing upon you. يعني fi-l-Dhahab. I mean in gold. حتى تكون لك 20 dinar. Until you have 20 dinar. That is the equivalent of 85 grams. The equivalent of 85 grams of gold. فإذا كان لك 20 dinar. If you have 20 dinar, وحال عليها الحول, and one lunar calendar passes over it, ففيها نصف dinar, then you have to pay half of a dinar. So you're paying half of dinar on 20 dinar that you own, then that is 2.5%. فما زاد فبحسب ذلك. Whatever you have in excess of 20 dinar is going to be judged based on that 2.5%. Again, laysa alayka shay'un. There is nothing upon you of zakah. We can jot that down. Laysa alayka shay'un. There is nothing of zakah for you to pay. Yani fi-l-Dhahab. I mean, with respect to gold that you own. Hatta takuna laka 20 dinar. Until you have 20 dinar that you own. فَإِذَا كَانَتْ لَكَ 20 dinar. If you have 20 dinar, وَحَالَ عَلَيْهَا الْحَوْلِ, and one lunar calendar passes over it while it remains in your possession, فَفِيهَا نِصْفُ dinar. Then you have to pay half of a dinar, 2.5%. فَمَا زَادَ فَبِحَسْبِ ذَلِكَ. Whatever goes above that in your possession of gold that you have, then you have to do what? You have to calculate it based on that. You have to calculate it based on that. Do we do we get that?
Yes. No.
Okay.
So this
So we
is
see
this is hadith, right?
Naam.
Okay.
So this hadith, we find it in the collection of Abu Dawud, 1573, Sunan Abu Dawud. It's also in Al-Muwatta of Imam Malik, hadith number 186. And it is graded as Hasan. It is graded as Hasan by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, and it is graded as Sahih by Sheikh Al-Albani. It is graded as Hasan by Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, and it is graded as Sahih by Sheikh Al-Albani. Are we done? Okay. There's also the question talks about something specific to gold and silver. So in that same hadith, there's a continuation in another narration or another hadith. It says, وَفِي الرِّقَّةِ رُبُعُ الْعُشْرُ. In riqqa, that's another name for fiddah. That's another name for silver. So the Prophet ﷺ said, وَفِي الرِّقَّةِ, with respect to the zakah on silver, rubu'u al-ushri, you have a quarter of a tenth to pay. That is the same 25%. A quarter of a tenth is 1/40, which is 2.5%. فَإِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ الْمَالِ, if the money that you own, that you possess, is not إِلَّا تِسْعِينَ وَمِئَ dirham, is not more than 190, فَلَيْسَ فِيهَا شَيْءٌ, there is nothing upon you of zakah to pay. إِلَّا أَنْ يَشَاءَ رَبُّهَا, except the owner wishes. And we talked about the permission to pay zakah even when it's not obligatory on you, or to pay more than what is required of you when it is obligatory upon you to pay. That anything you do in excess is mustahab. It is not compulsory on you. So again, the Prophet ﷺ said, وَفِي الرِّقَّةِ رُبُعُ الْعُشْرِ. With respect to silver, there is a quarter of a tenth to pay on silver that you own. فَإِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ الْمَالُ إِلَّا تِسْعِينَ ومئة dirham, if the silver that you own, if the wealth that you own, mal, but in this case, silver is what we're still talking about, is not up to, is not more than illa tis'in wa mi'a dirham, is not up to 190 dirhams. فَلَيْسَ فِيهَا شَيْءٌ, there's nothing upon you to pay. إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ رَبُّهَا, except the owner of the wealth wants. Taking this hadith alone, one will think that 190 dirhams is the threshold for payment of zakat on silver. But we'll join it to another hadith that will clarify that for us. It says, وَفِي كُلِّ, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, وَفِي كُلِّ خَمْسٍ أَوَاقٍ مِنَ الْوَارِقِ الْفِضَّةِ خَمْسَةُ دَرَاهِمْ. Sorry, the previous hadith, the source is Al-Bukhari. The previous hadith was said in silver, you have to pay a quarter of a tenth. And if you don't have more than 190, there's nothing to pay except the owner wishes. So hadith 1454, Sahih al-Bukhari. The next hadith says, وَفِي كُلِّ خَمْسِ أَوَاقٍ مِنَ الْوَارِقِ, for every 4 awaq min al-wariq. 1 awqiyah is equivalent to 40 dirham. Plural of awqiyah is awaq. So 5 times 4 is what? 200 dirham. 1 awqiyah, 40 dirham. Dirham is the measure of weight of silver. Dinar is the measure of weight of gold. We talk about gold, and the measure that we pay zakat on, the threshold is 20 dinar. That for silver is 200 dinar. So he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَفِي كُلِّ خَمْسِ أَوَاقٍ مِنَ الْوَارِقِ الْفِضَّةِ, in every 5 awaq, that is in every 5 times 40 awqiyah, in every 5 awaq, that is 200 dirham, al-fidda, silver, khamsatu darahim, you have to pay 5 dirhams. So 5 dirhams out of 200 dirhams is 2.5%. وَمَا زَادَ فِي كُلِّ 40 dirhaman. Anything in excess of 200 dirham, then you pay 1 dirham out of every 40 that increases. So 1 out of 40 is the same thing as 2.5%. وَلَيْسَ فِي مَدُونَ خَمْسِ أَوَاقٍ شَيْءٌ, and there is nothing upon what is less than 5 awaq zakah. There's no zakah on what is less than 5 awaq. What is 5 awaq? 200 dirhams. 1 awqiyah is 40. 5 awaq is 40 times 5. That's 200 dirhams. 1 awqiyah is 40 dirhams. So anything less than 200. So here we get the clarity that is not 190 that was mentioned in the first hadith. It's 190 to 200. If you have anything 190 to 200, or indeed anything less than 200, there's no zakah to be paid. This manner of speaking we also found it when the Prophet ﷺ was talking about the hadith on zakah on livestock. Inshallah, when we're doing the total revision of the course, we'll go through all the various types of zakat. So وفي كل 40 dinar, and in every 40 dinar gold, 40 in every 40 dinar, in every 40 dinar of gold that you have, you pay 1 dinar. But the threshold is what? We had read it in the first hadith. The threshold for gold is what? 20 dinar. You pay half. So if you have 40 dinar, you pay 1 dinar as zakah. So this hadith again, وفي كل 5 أواق من الورق الفضة 5 دراهم. Every 5 awaq, 200 dirhams of silver that you have, you pay 5 dirhams. وما زاد ففي كل 40 درهما درهم. Anything in excess of 200 dirhams, 5 awaq that you own, you pay everything in excess of 40, 1 dirham. وليس فيما دون 5 awaq شيء. Anything less than 5 awaq, which is 200 dirhams, which is 595 grams of silver, you are not to pay zakah on it. You are not required to pay zakah on it. وفي كل 40 dinar, and out of every 40 dinar of gold that you have, you have to pay 1 dinar as zakah. This hadith is in the Sunan of An-Nasa'i, then many of the collections of hadith, volume 8, 57, volume 8, page 57, Ad-Darimi, volume 2, 253. Now, so this settles that question. Let's go to the next question. What is the Quranic or Hadith evidence for paying zakah on trade goods? Aha, this is the one that the verse mentioned by Sheikh Bashir has been used by the scholars. So Imam Jurayj, he said, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu anfiqu min tayyibati ma kasabatum wa mimma akhrajna lakum min al-ard. That those of you who have believed, spend out of the good things that you have earned and from what we have extracted for you from the earth. Imam Ibn Jurayj, the Tabi'i, he said that this portion of the verse that says, spend out of the good things that you have earned, is talking about trade goods. It's talking about trade goods. So let's move to the next question. What is the link between gold, silver, trade goods, and shares? And how does this link affect the zakah to be paid on each? Is anybody? What is the link and how does it affect payment of zakah on each? Please, let's feel free. Let's open our mics if there's no interruption where we are. Let's contribute. Malam Isa.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What's the link between all those items? Gold, silver, money, trade goods, shares.
I think all of them can be grouped together as under money.
Okay, why?
Because you can put a value on them.
Okay, you can put a value on them, but we can also put a value on houses. Are we to group houses along with them?
No.
Barakallahu fikum.
I think part of the link is that all of gold, silver, and fiat money are store of wealth.
Okay.
And it's also a means of transaction, legal tender.
Okay.
So that is why they're zakatable, and they are linked to. They are all linked together.
Barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum. You mentioned some important aspects of it. I'll need somebody to help us out, add more flesh to it. Barakallahu fikum. Malam Zad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Gold and silver are money themselves.
Okay.
However, shares and trade goods are investments, and the essence of investment is to grow money. So the link is that if you don't invest the money, I mean, people actually invest to grow the money. So it's still the money that is being invested. So it's still the money in essence. The investment is still money, and it's just to grow it. So that's why they are all classified as the same thing.
Barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum. So we'll join what Malam Zaid said and what the previous brothers also said. And that is the root of everything is the gold and the silver. We read out to us the verse of the Quran, the verses of the Quran that are talking about paying zakah on gold and silver. الذين يكنزون الذهب والفضة ثم لا ينفقونها. Those who hoard gold and silver and do not spend them fi sabilillah in the path of Allah in zakah, فبشرهم بعذاب عليم, and give them glad tidings of a painful punishment. So this is the origin. These two metals are the key core bases. Now, when you look at them, they are items that are zakatable in and of themselves. Once you see gold, it is zakatable based on that verse. Once you see silver, it is zakatable based on that verse. In addition to just being gold and just being silver, they are also what? They also have other characteristics. Some of those characteristics are looked at with respect to zakah. Some of them are not looked at. Some of them that are not looked at, one of it will be that they are objects that people use in adorning themselves, beautifying themselves. But people use bronze too. They use diamond too. They use platinum too. And there's no zakat on those items in and of themselves because they are platinum, bronze, or diamond. No. So the aesthetic value is not relevant to the payment of zakah. But they have other values. Gold and silver from time immemorial have been used to set the prices of things, like Malan Isa said. They've been used to set the prices of things. Two, they've been used, as Malan Bashir said, as legal tender. So not only they set the price of things, how much is this car? It is 1,000 dirham. Okay, let me give you gold, dinar, or let me give you, silver, 1,000 dirham in silver for it. So you purchase it, you transact with that. So they used to set prices, they used to, engage in transactions. So these qualities were all together in each of gold and silver. Then the time came, people said, don't let us be carrying gold and silver about. Or they didn't even have enough gold and silver. So they used other things to act as receipts for gold and silver. That is where representative money came into being. Representative in the sense that you actually have it's a receipt for money, for gold or silver that is actually stored somewhere. You just don't want to carry it about. And also fiat money came, that you didn't have any real backing, either not at all or not enough gold or silver. What you have of gold or silver is either not existent or not, you don't have enough of it. You have it existent, but not enough to cover what is written on the fiat money. But you just say, go and spend it. You calculate it based on what you should have of gold and silver, not what you actually have of gold and silver. In all these cases, the representative money that is representing actual money stored somewhere, and the fiat money that is a representation of what you should have, they are representing what? Gold and silver. So if I have gold and silver, I put it somewhere and I collect a receipt for it, or a legally tenable document, for it, then having that document doesn't mean I don't have silver or gold anywhere else. No. Having my my debit card doesn't mean I don't have money. I put the money in the bank, they gave me a debit card. So it's still the same thing. As I withdraw from the ATM with my debit card, it is still from that money that I'm extracting. If that money is tied to gold, each time I extract from the debit card, an extraction is made from the money, an extraction is in turn made from the gold or the silver that it represents. So we find that in the representative money and the fiat money, part of the qualities of gold and silver were given to them. When Allah said we pay on gold and silver and take from their wealth sadaqah, zakat, to purify them, it was talking about gold and silver with all its qualities that apply to zakat. Nowadays, gold and silver are rarely spent in transactions. So in setting prices and in transactions, those qualities have been removed largely from gold and silver and put into other things. Now, whenever those qualities are found, the items in which those qualities are found become zakatable, of course, subject to the approval of the scholars. That is what Mr. Jayola mentioned, that the scholars, debated, on these issues and about the, 1940s and all that, when people stopped, or when this issue of fiat money, was generated, or when it started. So so this is it. If tomorrow Bitcoin or any of those digital currencies become approved by the scholars as a means of setting prices and transacting, then it will also become zakatable under the zakat of money. So these, this is the thing. Then we trade goods. Talked about Imam Jur'aj and other Mufassirun talking about, manfiqu min tayyibati ma kasabtum, the spend of the good things that you have earned. Now that portion of the verse talks about trade goods. Trade goods themselves, as Sheikh al-Ithain said in one of his fatwa, is an excuse for money. You have money and you convert it to fiat money. And you have gold and silver and you convert it to fiat money. You have gold and silver and you convert it to, to trade goods. In the first conversion, you're converting into something that won't grow because you don't want, possibly one of the reasons, because you don't want the risk associated with, carrying gold and silver about. So you carry a receipt instead. In the case of representative money. But in the case of trade goods, you want that money to grow, but in and of itself, it won't grow. Put in a garden and pour water on it, it won't grow. Put it under your pillow, it won't double when you wake up. So you spend it, or you convert it to something that will grow. You buy that something, you sell it to another person. If you have 20 dinar now, and you meet somebody and I say, oh, I want to sell my 20 dinar to you for 30 dinar. That transaction will be riba. And even if it was not riba, which it is, the person will not take it from you. Why do you want me to spend to buy 20 dinar from you with 30 dinar? So except someone who wants to do some other haram, transactions like riba, like, okay, I need a 20 dinar now, I'll give you 30 dinar later, or I want to go to a party and spray money, okay, give me 20 dinar new notes, I'll give you, 30 dinar, old notes or something, any of those haram transactions. But ordinarily, nobody will enter that transaction in a halal way. So what then do you do in order to grow the money? Use that 20 dinar, buy something of trade goods worth 20 dinar at a certain locality, and go somewhere else where they value it at 30 dinar and sell it and get your 10 dinar, profits. Now you have 30 dinar. You repeat the trade. So your trade goods are nothing but that. They are a representation of money, like Sheikh al-Ithain said, and many other scholars too. They are a representation of money. Your shares are the same thing as trade goods. There's no difference. You are owning a share in a company that is trading. So you are owning a portion of the trade goods. Someone is selling oranges and say, okay, let's do business together. I want to come into your business. How much is the business worth? Let me own 50% of it. You own 50% of it. This is the money for the 50%. You are trading in trade goods. You just bought a portion of trade goods. This is a representation, just as we said, of money, which is a representation or representative of gold and silver. So I hope that is clear. So because of that, they are all linked because they all go back to gold and silver. Therefore, it is the zakat, the threshold on each one of them is the threshold on gold and silver, the nisab. So the nisab on your trade goods, on your shares, on your money, and all that is the nisab of the one that is attained first. Adna and nisabain. The one that is attained first out of the two nisabs. Either the nisab of silver, which when we calculated the other time, we found that it is so low, most people are able to pay zakah on it and are therefore bound to pay zakah on it. Or the nisab of gold. So using Adna's nisabain makes it, clearer and cut and gives room for any situation where gold can become valued lower than silver. Everything is demand and supply is what affects the price of things. Currently and over time, gold has been priced more than silver, but things could change. So therefore, if you have money assets in a shop that you're trading in, asset that you're trading in anywhere, and they reach shares, and they reach the nisab of either gold and silver, then you've reached the nisab that is required to pay zakah. Then you pay 2.5% on this. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, so that means like the trade goods and all the like items in the list, you just group them together and then they should together form the nisab, right?
Barakallahu fik, barakallahu fik. That's what the scholars said. And that's a good point. I forgot to add that to what I was going to talk about. Jazakumullah khair. So therefore, when you are paying zakat, we've said it before in previous classes though, if you're paying zakat now, you look at the shares that you have. Is it up to the nisab or not? If it is up to the nisab, pay your zakat 2.5% on it. If it is not, look at the trade goods that you have. Is it up to the nisab or not? If it is, pay zakat on that trade good. If it is not, add the value of the trade goods to the value of the shares. If each of them are not up to the nisab, look at the gold that you have. If you add that gold, the value of the gold, to the trade goods and the shares, will it reach the nisab? If no, there's no zakah upon you. Go to the silver that you own. If you have silver, if that is that silver up to the nisab? If no, if you add it to the trade goods and the shares, will it become up to the nisab of silver? If yes, then add the silver, the trade goods, and the shares together. Again, if you have gold, if it's not up to the nisab, if it's up to the nisab, pay zakat on that gold. If it is not up to the nisab, add it to your trade goods, shares, and money, fiat money that you have. Those four: gold, fiat money, trade goods, and shares. Add them together. If they're up to the nisab of gold, then you do what? You pay zakah on them. If that is not the case, then you add silver, trade goods, fiat money, and shares. Those four together. If they're up to the nisab, you pay, they're up to the nisab of silver, then you pay zakah on them. If you remove gold and silver, you are left with money, trade goods, and shares. And if you add them together, if none of them independently reaches the nisab, if you add them together, do they reach the nisab of either silver or gold? If the answer is yes, then you pay zakah based on the nisab that they have reached. So you add silver, trade goods, fiat money, and shares, or you add gold, trade goods, fiat money, and shares. And the reason we do that is because trade goods, fiat money, and shares are linked to either silver, are either representing silver, or they are representing gold. Gold and silver have two prices. They have two, values attached to them. Their values are not the same. So it's either they are representing one or the other. Though, as we said, some scholars say you add all of them, but the evidence for that is very weak because their nisab are different. So how are we going to reconcile that? But if we choose the nisab of one, then it's easy. 200 dirhams, that is 595 grams for silver. For gold, 85 grams, 220 dinar. It's clear what we're going to pay 2.5% on. So either pay 2.5% on 20 dinar of gold, 85 grams, or you pay 2.5% on 595 grams, 200 dirhams of, silver. The dirhams that we're talking about is not the dirhams of our fiat money, but dirhams in terms of weight of silver. So is it clear? Is it clear? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Faddal.
Just to clarify, so if we take the equivalent of the nisab of silver,
Naam.
and look at the fiat money value,
Naam.
and the equivalent of the nisab of gold, and look at the fiat money value,
Naam.
so we'll pay it 2.5% separately, depending on the market condition and the prices of those goods, right? Is that
Sorry,
the
I
point?
didn't get that question. What do you
Okay.
mean by separately?
So I have gold of certain value,
Okay.
quantity and value.
Okay.
And then I have silver, of certain
No.
quantity. And
No.
prices of gold and silver varies
No.
depending on market condition.
No.
So when I want to pay my zakah on them, I
No.
have to look at that current value, right?
The first thing that you look at is the
Whether-
weight of gold and
Yes.
silver that you have.
Yes.
If
So
the
it means-
gold that you
Okay.
own is up to the nisab or above the nisab, then that is when it becomes zakatable. And you look at the current market price on that day that one lunar calendar has been clocked, and you pay zakat based on the current market price on that day. Even if you happen to pay a week later or 1 month later, it is on the day when the howl clocked. What was the market price on that day for that gold that you have that is either at or above the nisab? The same thing for silver. You look at the weight. That's where you start from always. The weight of silver that you have, is it 595 grams of silver? If no, there's no zakah. If yes or more, then there's zakah to be paid. Look at the market price, current market price on the day that the howl clocks, and pay zakah based on that. Is it clear?
Now,
Right.
the mix now of gold, silver, and fiat money,
Now,
would they be treated combined or separately? For example, the gold does not meet the nisab, but when you
No.
combine with the silver, it
No.
exceeds the nisab.
Barakallahu fikum.
And then for cash, and then for trade goods and things like that.
Barakallahu fikum. Some of the scholars say that you mix everything together. And when we treated it, we said that that is not the more correct of the scholarly opinions. Because, as we just said today, when we want to do mixing of these things that are linked, we remove gold and silver separately. Put gold on one roll, put silver on another roll. The others that are linked to each of them, fiat money, trade goods, the value of our trade goods, and shares, gold, add them to either gold or silver. All those other ones, trade goods, fiat money, and shares, they are representing one or the other of gold and silver. At a single period of time, they will represent either or silver. So if at the time we want to pay zakah, we add everything to gold that we have, and we find that it is not up to the nisab, then we detach them and add them instead to silver and see if they will be up to the nisab of silver. If you add them to the nisab of gold, to gold, and it's not up to the nisab of gold, then we detach them and add them to silver to see if they are up to the nisab of silver. If that is the case, then we pay 2.5% based on the nisab of silver. If not, after adding everything together, then there's no nisab to be paid. Some of the scholars say if you have half nisab of gold and half nisab of silver, then you have one nisab. One nisab of what? Not one nisab of silver gold. No. And especially, there's nothing like that. And especially when the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith that we read to us, he said, Laysa alayka shay'un. There's nothing of zakah upon you to pay. Yani fi-l-Dhahab, I mean with respect to gold, hatta takun laka ishruna dinar, until you have 20 dinar, 85 grams of gold. So the scholars who hold that opinion perhaps didn't look at this hadith or view it differently from the apparent meaning. Because they're saying that if you have less than 20 dinar, that you can combine it to silver. If you have less than 20, and if you have less than 200 dirham, that is 595 grams of silver. But the Prophet ﷺ didn't give us that option. He said there is nothing upon you. They are saying there's something upon you. Rahimahumullah. So that's the ijtihad. They'll get one reward for the attempt. And now that we just click Sheikh Google and we get all these hadith and co, many of them didn't have, the opportunity to be able to have all these hadith in one place when they were making these rulings. So that is what we rely on when we follow the position of scholars who say that you add to either gold or to silver. Is it clear?
Now, so in adding, what it means is that we look at the current value of silver, and then look at the equivalent fiat money value of those items, cash, trade goods and shares, and then try to use the current value to convert it into grams of silver and see whether the silver you have and those other items that are like fiat money combined together are up to the nisab of silver, or is it that your silver still stays separate and those items stay separate?
Okay, barakallahu fikum. On the day that zakah becomes incumbent for you to pay on silver, let's use a simple instance. Let us assume that the howl clocks on the same day for all these things that we're talking about. Your lunar calendar to pay zakah clocks at the same time for your silver, your trade goods, your fiat money, and your shares. So when that day arrives, you look at the market price of silver, you look at the quantity of silver that you have, and you look at the market price of a gram of silver. And you look, with that, you calculate the market price of 595 grams of silver, which is 200 dirhams of silver, 200 dirhams weight of silver. So you now know what 1 gram of silver is in the market. You now know what 595 grams of silver is in the market. And 3, you know what gram of silver you have. And you know what the deficit is to cover. So let's say you have 300 grams of silver. Or let's say you have 395 grams of silver. So you need to balance up 200 grams of silver for you to reach the nisab. These 200 grams of silver, because you already know what 1 gram of silver is in the market on that day, you just multiply by 200 and you know what that is. So you look at your cash. Do you have equivalent of what the monetary value of 200 grams of silver is. Let's say you looked at your at your cash and you found that, okay, I have 50 out of that 200. So you still have a deficit of 150. You look at your trade goods, you value them. They are, if you are to sell, your selling price is what you use, not on a selling price on that day. Your customer were to walk into your store and say, I want to buy everything up. How much will you sell? So you'll sell, you'll get that value and say, oh, it's 100. Okay, good. You have a deficit of 50. You look at your shares, you see that they are up to 50. Of the money that you have, whether dollars or whatever, at the market price of silver. So you have reached the nisab. Based on that, you pay 2.5% of the market price of 595 grams of silver, because that is the total worth of all those things when you calculated that. If you're adding all of them to gold, then you'll have walked through the same process. But in this case, you'll be going after 85 grams of gold. So maybe you had 55 grams of gold. You have a deficit of 30. Then you look at the other things that you have. Since you already know what a gram of gold is on that day, and the deficit that you have is 30 grams, and you know what that 30 grams is by multiplying with the market price on that day for 1 gram of gold, and you spread it across the others and see, does the value of each, or do the values of those other items, your shares, your fiat money, your trade goods, when you combine them, do they add up to that 30 or exceed it? If they do, then you have the nisab of gold or above it if they exceed it. Then you pay zakah based on that. Is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear. It's just that it's a bit then contradicting to, well, not contradicting. It's different from, we say that we cannot combine gold and silver.
Yes.
If they are not up to the nisab, but
No.
if together they are up to, we cannot steal. But for in the case of the other items, cash, trade goods, and shares, we can do that. That's what we are saying.
Yes, because each of those other ones, they are representing either gold or silver. If you go to the marketplace, gold and silver were used during the time of Prophet ﷺ, and even after him up until the 1940s thereabout, to set prices of things. So if you go to a store,
so we
and you say,
we cannot say that silver, is representing gold, or gold is representing silver.
No.
Use that as a basis. Okay, now.
So you just walk into a store and you say, what is the price of this car? They can give you two prices. They can say it is X amount in gold, or it is X or it is Y amount in silver. Because just like you have currency, differences, dollar to dirham or something, like that. You can go and ask, what is the price of this car? And say it is X dirhams or it is X dollars, because there's an exchange rate between dirham and dollars. The same thing is an exchange rate between dirham and dinar, gold, silver and gold. So, but that's so when you're going to pay, you are going to pay in either dollar or you're going to pay in dirham. So if you're adding those other things, you add it to one of them. Adding it to both will create a problem which we talked about. The Prophet ﷺ said, if it is not, or if one of them is not up to the threshold, gold or silver, that is nothing upon you. So once the Prophet ﷺ has said that, why are you adding something to it? And when you're going to add to it, what are you going to add to it? Then the sum of this one is separate, 85 grams gold. Then the sum of that one is separate, silver, 595 grams. So what are you going to add, to one to balance off the other? So that is not accommodated in the evidences in the ahadith. Now, is it clear? Right. It's not too clear, Abi.
No, I mean that's the ruling. If you look at it in terms of ordinary explanation, then it may not be too clear because both of them have value. And then for the other ones that have value, you are adding it to either of the main key items. But if that's the ruling of the Sheikh, then fine. You get my point? Because I was thinking that ordinarily you'd have thought, oh, these total items belong to me. So if I convert all of them to either gold or silver, and they are more than the nisab, then I should pay zakah on them. But Allah alam.
But if the owner of the money wills, then he can do something to, if he has the reservations that you have, we shouldn't have any reservation, that he can convert his gold. He can sell his gold and buy silver if he wants to use silver. But he can sell his, silver and buy gold, so that he will have gold and he adds it to all that and he reach the nisab. End of story. In that case, he knows that he is judging based on the nisab of one of them. But if I have gold and silver, and I will not attain the nisab of any one of them until I add that gold to the silver to all those other things, the question becomes, what am I using as nisab? I have joined gold to silver. What am I using as nisab? If I say it is gold, then the silver in this, and it has its own nisab. What have we done to the nisab of that? If I say it is silver, there's gold in this mix, and it has its own independent nisab. So what are we doing to it? Are we just removing it? When we say the others, shares, money, and everything, those ones are flexible. They are representing either or. But gold is not representing silver. Silver is not representing gold. If I want to remove conflict, I must pay this zakah, many which way, no problem. Sell one and convert it to the other so that you know you are working with one. Now.
Yeah, would that not be seen as not trying to fully, obey the ruling? If you deliberately do that just to make sure you do the zakat.
No,
well,
because
what I'm saying is that you know that the ruling is gold, silver. If they don't meet the nisab, don't pay.
Yeah.
Right? So, and you don't have the intention of, selling the gold or the silver ordinarily.
Yeah.
You don't have the intention. I want to keep my gold as gold and my silver as silver. But because I feel somehow about this ruling, that's why I now go and sell the gold, to make it up with silver. Then that also has its own, your intention as well needs to be clear. Your intention should be that is the ruling. Allah might follow the ruling, not to be having thoughts. Yeah.
Barakallahu feekum. But we have one addition I'd just like to add to that is that one, this is regards to a specific individual who has, feel somehow about, the ruling, because there is a leeway for paying zakah, even when it is not compulsory on you, or paying more than what is compulsory on you. So if he feels that the only way he will get peace of mind, is if he does more than what is required of him, then there's no problem. His only problem will come if he's doing something that is not being required to do. And the scholars usually use the word that the one whose zakah is compulsory on. Not that if your requirements are less than that, you are not to pay zakah, or it's haram for you to pay zakah. So if you don't have 85 grams of gold, for instance, then paying zakah on gold is not compulsory on you. Not that you are not to pay zakah. Barakallahu feekum. Let's move on. Jazakumullah khair. What type of item in a business are not zakatable, and why? Malam Bashir, if you have a business, what type of items in that business are not zakatable, and why are they not zakatable? Malam Bashir, Malam Isa.
Anything that you are using that, for example, like a machine or something that is not being traded.
Barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum. Anything that you're using, anything in inverted columns that you're using, but you are not selling it itself. You know, it is either contributing directly to your end product or indirectly to your end product. Like the AC in your office is not directly contributing to your end product, but it is indirectly contributing to your end products. Keeps the staff there, they can do their job to produce the end product. So either one, whether it's contributing directly or indirectly, so long as you are not selling it itself, then it is not zakatable. What do we mean when we say that in inverted columns, that if you are not selling it in inverted columns, is that so long as this thing that you are not selling is not in and of itself a zakatable thing. For instance, if I have gold chairs in my office and either directly or indirectly, it is contributing towards the production of of my end product that I'm selling, that is zakatable. But that gold chair is zakatable because gold in and of itself is zakatable. So I'll pay zakah on it. Or have a device, part of the components that has to be there is silver. Then, but I'm not selling it. It only contributes either directly or indirectly to the end product. I will still have to pay zakat on it in this case, even though the general ruling is that there's no zakah on this class of things that we're not selling. But because this class in and of itself is zakatable, then I pay zakah on it. Is it clear?
So, for example, for the gold chair, even if you sit on it frequently, then it is zakatable, or
yes, because it is gold. إن الذين يكنزون الذهب والفضة ولا ينفقونها في سبيل الله فبشرهم بعذاب أليم. Those who store gold and silver and do not spend it in the path of Allah, i.e. in zakat, and give them glad tidings of a painful punishment.
Oh, so maybe I was mixing it a bit, because I thought, like, for those that said like for ladies they have to pay zakat, it is for those that don't use it like frequently.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you raise your voice a bit?
I mean, I said probably I was mixing things up, because I thought those that said for ladies they have to pay zakat on gold, then it is for those that don't use it frequently. So
okay, barakallahu fikum. Now, the only gold in and of itself, wherever you find it, the basic ruling is that you are going to pay zakah on it. The only difference of opinion amongst the scholars is with respect to gold that is used for beautification, owned by ladies in a permissible way, and they use it during one haul. So this is where the scholars differ. Some choose this opinion, some choose that opinion. Gold that is owned by a woman, gold is prohibited for men to use as adornments. So it's gold that's used for adornment, owned by a woman, and this adornment is permissible. So if she owns a chain with a crucifix, fashioned in the form of a crucifix, then this is haram. She will pay zakah on it. If it is permissible, but she doesn't wear it for one haul, then the scholars differ. Some say it doesn't matter. Some say it matters because of the verse that we just read. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ, that she's storing it, she's not using it. So the ayah applies to her for storing it. You are storing it if you don't use it for 1 year. So either you yourself or you are renting it out or whatever. So you are making it available for people to use or something like that. So with respect to business, if you have a chair and you're sitting on it, it's not for adornment. If you have an equipment and it's a component of your equipment, is not for adornment used by a woman in a permissible way. So there's zakah on it. So it remains in the default. It's only the only thing that deviates from the default of paying zakah on gold and silver is if it is used for permissible adornment within one haul. And in the case of gold, owned by a woman; in the case of silver, owned by either a man or a woman. Is it clear?
Yes.
What type of shares are not zakatable and why? Malam Bashir. What types of shares are not zakatable and why?
The shares that are not. Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, I was trying to talk there earlier. The speaker was malfunctioning. Yeah, the shares that are not zakatable are the shares that are not intended to take the dividend. They are intended to be kept for maybe to be kept and for later future use.
Okay, you buy the shares. What you intend is that you buy the shares. You don't intend to trade in the shares themselves. Yes. So they are your personal goods or road of opinion. But whatever benefits, like dividends that come out of them, you will spend or utilize or store, as the case may be. So it is this type that are not zakatable, this type of shares that are not zakatable. But the dividends that you get from them, and if you store them, then once they reach the nisab, you start counting one haul. Once one haul is attained, clocks, then you pay zakah on them, right?
Yes, and the one that will be zakatable is going to be regarded as urud tijara.
Now, you buy the shares now, maybe and you have the intention that once the price rises to a certain amount, you sell it and all that. Then that's urud tijara. Barakallahu fik. Now, there's one point that applies to the first half of the question that is related to the previous question when we said what type of items in a business are not zakatable, and we made the exception of from that group we made the exception of things that in and of themselves are zakatable, like gold and silver. The same thing applies here. If I the question, let me quickly look at the question again. What type of shares? Okay, no, that's the next question. I mean, a couple of questions on that. Let's move on that. So it suffices where we reach on that. Jazakumullah khair. Based on what is and what is not permissible, What are the three categories of shares in the eyes of Sharia? And what is the ruling on each? Mr. Jayala. Based on what is and what is not permissible, what are the three categories of shares in the eyes of the Sharia? And what is the ruling on each?
Three types of shares.
Yes. I can help out by saying shares that are permissible, that are halal. The remaining two.
Haram.
Okay. And the last one.
So if we say they are permissible, that means they are dealing in halal products.
They are dealing in halal products, yes. Jazakumullah khair.
But if they are not dealing in halal products, okay, bond.
That's a type of, well, it's different from shares, was another instrument that people deal with. So shares can be halal, as you said, they deal in halal products, and their manner of dealing is also halal. The product is halal, their interactions, their transactions are also halal. The second type of shares are haram shares. The product is haram. So whether they deal with it, in the Sharia compliant way or not, is of no value. It is haram.
It is haram.
The third are what? Can somebody add? Can somebody add? Can somebody add? Mixed shares. Al-ashum al-mukhtalaf. Okay. So, Madam Zayad, what will qualify as a mixed share?
They are shares that ordinarily they are dealing in halal products.
Okay.
But they have some haram items as part of their income. For example, they have invested in they have given out loan,
Okay.
and then they are getting some interest from that. Yeah.
So their product is halal, but their transaction is haram. So halal, product and transaction, halal shares. Haram shares, product is haram. Once the product is haram, you don't need to ask about how they transact it. It is of no value. Mixed shares, the product is halal, however, their transaction, one or more of the transactions, is haram. All they need is just one transaction to qualify that is haram for it to be a mixed share. So, of course, halal shares are halal, haram shares are haram. The debate is with mixed shares. The vast majority of the scholars, and we quoted the various international Muslim group of scholars, Islamic World League, and all that issue the fatwa that buying shares or buying mixed shares is also haram. Because Allah says, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Help each other in good deeds and fear of Allah. Do not help each other in sins and shameful deeds. So having shares, you're contributing, you're helping. So that is on that. Next question, what items are zakatable? Okay, now, Mr. Jawala first.
Okay, so I was just wondering why, even the mist is being debated since it has a haram component. I threw more light on that. I would have expected that it's just classified as haram.
No,
Barakallahu
that's a very good question. It is because a very minority of the scholars, recent scholars, not old scholars, hold the opinion that you can clean the haram parts out of it. That since the product itself is halal, but we know that their transaction, one or more of their transactions is haram. Now, what you just need to do is investigate, get information from the company on the haram transactions that they have and what revenue was generated through that haram transaction. Then calculate your own percentage out of that haram revenue and remove it and give it out as sadaqah.
So, does it say you should stop that haram aspect?
No, it doesn't say. So that is why we said last week, and we're saying again, and which is what you are pointing out, alluding to, that the verse of Allah is there. وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. Help each other in bir and taqwa. Don't help each other in sins and shameful deeds. But continue to have that, whatever you are participating in that shameful deeds. They are engaging in that haram transaction because of, in your stead. They are, whatever the activity they carried out, it is on behalf of the shareholder. So you're a party to it. So it is like somebody going to do something haram and now doing good deeds out of it, Robin Hood kind of a thing. So that is why scholars of old and the vast majority of scholars of new of that position that both mixed and haram shares are haram. Both mixed and haram shares are haram. But it's always good to mention these opinions, mentions their strengths and weaknesses, their evidences, so that when one is confronted with them, one knows, no, I've heard this one before, oh, I've read this one before, I know the weaknesses, I know this. And when one, is, many of these people that sell these products, they'll sweet talk one, and make it, appealing, or they may have a Sharia board that holds this, opinion that, you can clean the haram part out of the shares. One will say, no, thank you, I'm not interested. Jazakumullah khair. Madam Bashir.
My question is a bit not really related to what we are discussing, but if I want to know the scholar's opinion, and if I know a friend whose earnings, part of his earnings are from haram, probably he gets loan from bank and is into riba and some other things. Can I receive gift items from him in form of money or any other items from him? And I know clearly that some of his earnings are from haram means.
Barakallah fikum. Barakallah fikum. The scholars have answered that. With respect to, I'll answer the question in two parts. With respect to riba specifically, and respect to other things that may be haram, that are not riba. With respect to riba, they say the fatwa is to take it, the taqwa is to reject it. The fatwa, i.e., is it halal for you or not? The money from him to you is what? Is a gift. Accepting gifts is halal in the Sharia. Likewise, his kids, his wife, and things like that, is to spend on them, is required to spend on them, and his spending on them, is halal for them to receive. He is the one that has committed haram, and he is the one that will be held responsible for that. He and anyone that aids him or assists him in that. So if there's anybody, his friend, his wife, his child, and anything that aids any part of his haram transaction, then that person will be held responsible for that facilitation provided, not for the money, because the money is the same money. There's no whatever. So why it is haram or not is the means of acquiring it. So when you're acquiring from him, the means is what? The means is halal, gift. The means is haram, it is riba. Now, the second part of answering it is if the money itself is haram, not just the means. So, for instance, one knows that somebody acquires money by stealing it. Then that money is not his money. So, receiving it from him is aiding and abetting, as our people will say. So the one who steals, is not as guilty as the one who receives it and helps him to store it. Because if he doesn't have, a means of storing it, perhaps he will stop stealing, perhaps. So so in that case, the money itself is not his. And if one knows that and one accepts it, then that is haram for one also. So there are two things. Is the money regarded in the Sharia as his, but he is violating the Sharia because of the means of acquiring it, or the money is not regarded in the Sharia as his, hence the means of acquiring it does not even matter. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, so what if he has mixed halal and haram, and then you don't know?
You based on that which is bayyin. Al-halal bayyin, al-haram bayyin. So a man mixes his halal, he has halal wealth and he has haram, wealth. So we go to what? The earlier fatwa. The fatwa is to collect with the intention that you're collecting from that which is halal, and the taqwa is to abandon it. And as a student of knowledge or somebody that has muru'ah, self-worth, it is best to abandon this, not because it is haram, but you don't want things to be mixed, with you. Even Malam Isa collected money from him the other day too, or something, like that. So we don't want anything like that. So the taqwa is to leave this person to his own whatever. But what is the fatwa? And part of what will be the fatwa that one will also look at is al-hukmu ala al-ghalib, the maxim that the ruling is upon the preponderance. So when we said the fatwa is that you take and the taqwa is that you abandon, what we are talking about is if it is 50-50 or the halal is preponderant. But if you know that the preponderant part of his wealth is the haram one that is not his money, the haram one that is not his money, then you can't take from this. But if whether it is 50-50 or the halal is more or the haram is more, but the problem with that wealth is the means of acquiring it, then that means stops at him, not you. So for that instance, blanket all through, the fatwa is to take it, the taqwa is not to take it. But if the means of, if the money itself is haram, is not his own, and is mixed with money that is his own, then you look, which one is preponderant? Which one is the preponderant? If it is 50-50 or the halal is more preponderant, then the fatwa is to take it with the intention that you are taking from that which is preponderant. And you're not taking from that which is haram, because there's no means of knowing that this 10 dirhams is it from this or this. No, but you know that preponderant is this, and the ruling, the maxim of Usul-al-Fiqh is al-hukmu ala al-ghalib. The what is preponderant carries the rule, and the scholars say another portion that inna Allah la ya'muru illa bima maslahatuhu khalisatan aw rajiha. Allah does not command us to do a thing except that thing that its benefit is either total or preponderant, and he does not awala yanha illa amma kana mafsadatuhu khalisatan aw rajiha. or he does not prohibit us from a thing except that that thing is evil, is either total or preponderant. Alcohol, for instance, what did Allah say? He said, "Fihi ithmun kabirun wa manafi'un fihi يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر قل فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس." They ask you about intoxicants and gambling. Tell them that there are many sins in it, but a few benefits. Despite the benefits, because the evil in it outweigh the benefits, Allah prohibited it. So it's the same eye that you look at such a person when the money that he acquires in and of itself is not regarded as a Sharia, as money belonging to him, and he mixes that with money that is required and that is looked at in the eyes of the Sharia as money belonging to him. You look which one is preponderant. So if the good is preponderant or is 50-50, the fatwa is to take, and the taqwa is not to take. And I'm sure we'll favor the taqwa. Is it clear? What items are zakatable and what entity pays the zakah in a company that offers services and rentals? So we talked about the first part. What items are zakatable? Okay, no, that was under another listen. So let's answer this one. What items are zakatable and what entity is going to pay that zakah in a company that offers services and rentals?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Is it possible to take you back a bit?
Okay, please.
Yeah, just on what you just discussed. I remember you quoted in the last class the hadith of a gift of zakat that was delivered to, I think, the khadima of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet came in, he came in asking Mother Aisha, radiallahu anha, that what is that, and she mentioned it. So in that case, it was haram for the Prophet, but she gave it to them and they took it. So using that now, in the case, we say taqwa is actually to leave it in the case you just discussed now. That taqwa is actually to leave it.
Barakallahu fikum. Now, the subject of the matter is meat that was given to Barira, and she was cooking it in the house of Aisha radiallahu anha. She was a free slave of Aisha radiallahu anha. So the Prophet ﷺ entered and said, "What are we going to eat?" So they offered him, something else that wasn't, much. So what about that meat cooking? Said it belongs to Barira. She was given as, as a car. He said, and we all know that the Prophet's family household do not eat from zakat. So he said, for her, it is, zakat. For us, if she gives it to us willingly, then it is what? It is halal. So the meat in and of itself is a product. Is it halal or haram? It is halal. The means of acquiring it is what differentiates Barira from the Prophet ﷺ. The means of acquiring it for Barira was halal. So it's not the case of like riba, for instance. So the means of acquiring it for Barira was halal. If she transmits it to the Prophet ﷺ as a gift, it will also be halal. However, if the Prophet ﷺ had gone to get it directly from the purse of zakah, then that would be haram for him. So, but in case of riba, the person who engages in riba, the means of acquiring it is haram. If he gives it to somebody, the means of acquiring it for that person is halal. And we said the fatwa is taking it is halal, but the taqwa is to reject it. So you see the difference. The product in and of itself and acquisition method at the level of barira was halal. However, for the case of the person who deals in riba, it is haram. Is it clear?
Yes, jazakumullah khair.
What is the item? What items are zakatable and what entity pays the zakat in a company that offers services and rentals? So let me just quickly answer that because of time. If you're offering services and rentals, rental is a form of service. you don't, if you're renting out cars and everything like that, you don't pay zakah on the cars. It is the rental income that you pay zakah on because you're not selling the cars. You only pay zakah on the cars in addition to the money that you get from rentals if your intention is to sell the cars too after a period of time. So even though that time that you want to sell, maybe I'm going to sell these cars once the free insurance that comes with them expires after 3 years, then I get another set of cars. Then in that case, you pay zakah on the cars and also you pay zakah on the rental income. But if you don't intend to sell the cars, even if something happens later and you end up selling, that is a totally different thing. But your intention is, what is your intention at the time of buying the car or afterwards? Maybe a year after, you now decide at this point I'm going to sell the car. From the time when you change your intention, then the car becomes zakatable. But if you haven't made up your mind to sell the car, even if you are considering it, then until you make up your mind, that car that you're using for rental, and indeed all things that you're using for services, are not zakatable. However, what we said previously, a few questions ago, applies here also. If what you are renting out is gold or silver, or that which in and of itself is zakatable, then you pay zakah on it also, despite this general rule. So if you open a shop and you are renting out gold and silver, and you're collecting money for that, so your rental fee that people are paying, you pay zakah on that as zakah on money. But because it is gold, because it is silver, in and of itself, it is zakatable. So you are renting it out, because it's gold and silver, they are zakatable, you pay zakah on that. You pay zakah on that, item. Is it clear? It's just like the chairs that we talked, the gold chair that we talked about, or the gold or silver components of a machine that we talked about when we're talking about products. This is service now. Is it clear?
Can you repeat that, please? I
Okay.
didn't quite catch that. Yeah.
If you are offering a service with you set up a company and you're offering a service, the default is that you are not to pay zakah on that thing with which you are offering a service. Let's use a taxi company, for instance. They're offering ride services. So there's no zakah to be paid on the taxis. What you pay zakah on is the taxi fares that people pay and you accumulate once it reaches the nisab and one howl has passed on it, along with other conditions of payment of zakah. However, we will deviate from these defaults if some things happen. One, if at the point of buying the chair, the taxis, or later on, at any point in time, you now change your intention to selling the taxis to the cars. And I say, oh, okay, maybe at the point of buying, that after 4 years or 3 years, once the free insurance that comes with this car expires, I'm going to sell it and buy a new stock and now a new fleet of cars for my taxi business. Then you are going to pay zakah every howl on those taxis, even though you have not sold them, in addition to paying zakah on the taxi fees that you receive if they're up to the nisab or above. So this is the second. This is first deviation. The second deviation is if what you are renting out is an item that in and of itself is zakatable, like you are renting out gold and silver. Then in that case, you are going to pay zakah on the rental fee that people who rent the gold and silver are going to pay to you. You're also going to pay rental fee on the gold and silver, even though you are not selling the gold and silver. But because gold in and of itself is zakatable, silver in and of itself is zakatable. That's why you are going to pay zakah. So you'll be paying zakah on gold and silver, not urud tijara. They are not urud tijara. We understand that. So you are not paying on them because they are urud tijara. They are not trade goods. They are used for service. But in and of itself, even if you are not using them for that service, they will be zakatable, right? So they remain zakatable. You haven't done something with them that will make them non-zakatable, like owning them if you're a woman, owning gold if you're a woman for halal, purification, and you're using it in a house. Is it clear now?
So this is specific for gold and silver.
Yeah, no, anything that in and of itself. So for instance, that is zakatable. So for instance, if I have
it's true. So
free
even if
range,
it's money, if it is money that I give out and I even loan it out, I will still need to pay if I know that the person can pay back the money.
Yes, because money in and of itself is what? Is zakatable. So you're loaning out the money doesn't mean that is not one of the Sharia excuses for not paying zakat. If I have a free range, non-working animals of the sheep, cattle, and camel family, and I rent them out to eat the grass in people's farms, so that instead of employing, someone to cut the grass or use a machine, a mower to cut the grass, I do that instead. Then, I say it's a green, service or whatever, and they pay me for that. They are still non-working, free-range animals. By that nature, they are zakatable. So I'll still pay zakat on them, even though I'm using them to offer service. Now, 3 more questions. I don't know whether to answer them now or should we wait till next week.
Yeah,
what do we vote for?
They are calling her down now. Maybe next week.
Yeah,
Inshallah.
next week.
Inshallah. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Yeah, you're being all very wonderful with your participation, your knowledge base, and all that. Barakallahu fikum. That is the most important thing. It gives one, joy that, we are following, and all that. May Allah make it useful to all of us. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan.
Right.